The Pittsburgh Steelers since 2007 under head coach Mike Tomlin have had 16 straight seasons without a losing record. It doesn't matter who's behind center. It doesn't matter how brutal the division is. The Steelers are on an unprecedented reign of success.
And one reason why the Pittsburgh Steelers have been so successful, the secret sauce to their success, so to speak, has been their ability to draft wide receiver talent outside of the first round. And today we are going to discuss some examples of their success at drafting the wide receiver position and also why this gives them such a big advantage over their competition. The first hit on the wide receiver position in Mike Tomlin's tenure has to be Mike Wallace. This is a guy coming out of Ole Miss. He was severely underrated, a third-round pick, number 84 overall, drafted in 2009. This guy was absolutely phenomenal out of the gate. He won the Joe Green Great Performance Award that is awarded every year to the most outstanding Steelers rookie. This is a guy who has played in Super Bowls for the Steelers. He had a crucial 25-yard touchdown catch in Super Bowl 45. He was a Pro Bowler in 2011. This just shows the very first from the get-go, Mike Tomlin and co. were able to see a guy who is going to be a difference maker at the wide receiver position, who is kind of underrated, a guy that was overlooked throughout time. This is a trend throughout all of the Steelers wide receivers. We move on. Just 1 year later, they really started to get hot. They selected Emmanuel Sanders out of SMU in the third round, number 82 pick overall. This guy was once again a Pro Bowler in 2014 and 2016. He was with that Steelers Super Bowl team at Super Bowl 45. He also went on to win another Super Bowl with the Broncos in Super Bowl 50. So this guy, once again, very productive, very underrated, and just goes to show the Steelers were able to look into a receiver and see something a lot of other teams were not able to see. But that very same year, the Steelers hit once again, and this is what I think is really unprecedented. The fact the Steelers were able to see not one, but two very highly talented Pro Bowl level wide receivers in one draft, and this time they got it. This is the biggest one. Antonio Brown out of Central Michigan, drafted in the 2010 draft as well. This guy was in the 6th round, pick 195, a 4-time first-team All-Pro from 2014 to 2017, second-team All-Pro in 2013, 7-time Pro Bowler. He led the NFL in receptions twice in 2014 and 2015. He was the receiving yards leader in 2014 and 2017, the touchdown leader in 2018. He was on the NFL's 2010 All-Decade team. Once again, was in that Super Bowl 45 loss to Green Bay with the Steelers, as well as winning a Super Bowl with the Bucs and Super Bowl 55. This guy was something else. If his career could have gone on, this was probably one of the best receivers of all time, especially of his era. This guy was unparalleled. He was absolutely a monster, and he was picked up by the Steelers in the 6th round because they were able to identify something just different about him that other teams were not able to see. But the trend goes on and on. We go next to Martavis Bryant out of Clemson. This guy selected again in the 4th round. They're able to hit on these late round receivers very consistently. Pick 118. This guy had a very strong early career, but fizzled out quickly due to off-field issues. But the Steelers were able to see that this guy would be a difference maker. He was a playmaker. Very, very explosive and dynamic player, but wasn't able to keep it together off the field, but showing they could see the talent in these guys. We go on to Juju Smith-Schuster out of Southern Cal, drafted in 2017, a 2nd-round pick, pick number 62. This guy was also, once again, very, very talented. I think he could have potentially gone in the 1st round if they redrafted it. It just shows that this guy was a difference maker, a guy that was the successor to Antonio Brown for the Steelers. He went over to the Chiefs, won a Super Bowl with them. He was a Pro Bowler in 2018. He was on the all-rookie team for the PFWA in 2017. And he was the youngest receiver ever with 1,500 receiving yards, showing that he's gotten a phenomenal start to his career. Now we're in the more contemporary times for the Steelers lately. They have Deontay Johnson out of Toledo, a third-round pick, number 66 overall. This guy's already in his short NFL career become a second-team All-Pro in 2019 and a Pro Bowler in 21. And of course, we have the young George Pickens out of Georgia, 2022 draft pick, second rounder, pick number 52. This guy looks like he should have been a first rounder. He has all of the athletic talent in the world, and the Steelers, already in 1 year of his career, are just showing this guy is dangerous. He is a playmaker, and he is a difference maker on the field.
This incredible run of Steelers success in terms of drafting wide receivers in the later rounds isn't just a string of luck. It's part of a carefully articulated and modeled plan that goes back to the 1990s, and it starts with current head coach, Pittsburgh Steelers coach Mike Tomlin. Tomlin, of course, played his college football at William and Mary University, where he played, of all positions, wide receiver and was named second team All-Yankee Conference after the 1994 season. When Mike Tomlin finished playing football in college, he transferred over to the coaching ranks, and it began with a job as the wide receivers coach, you're seeing a trend here, at the Virginia Military Institute, VMI, in 1995. He moved on to Memphis in 1996 as a grad assistant, and then on to Arkansas State, where in 1997 he became the wide receivers coach. After that, he transferred to be a defensive backs coach and then rose to the defensive ranks, namely under Monty Kiffin and Tony Dungy as part of that Tampa 2 lineage, going back to the time with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and of course, eventually moving on to be the defensive coordinator of the Minnesota Vikings and now the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. But it all begins for Tomlin with an understanding of the wide receiver position, a position he played his entire life, a position where he played Division I college football, and then a position that launched his coaching career. Tomlin has an innate understanding of that position that goes deep and allows the Pittsburgh Steelers to find hidden value outside of the first round. Now, what does this all mean for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Why does this give them such a hidden advantage? Being well enough at drafting a wide receivers outside of the first round is all well and good, but in terms of the overall success of the franchise under the Tomlin era, again, no losing seasons as of the beginning of the 2023 season under Mike Tomlin. What does that, drafting wide receivers and evaluating that position so well, have to do with that success? And the answer is it gives the Steelers an incredible advantage over the other 31 teams in football. Let me explain. So if you look at a first-round draft pick 16 through 32, the back half of the first round, the general consensus is that players in the first round in that section have about a 50% chance of being a good football player. After that, when you go into the second round, that drops dramatically to maybe about 25, 30%, third round to about 15, 12%, and then so on through the final 7 rounds and eventually the undrafted free agents. Players that are selected in the first round are considered more likely to be good players. That's why they're first round picks. Players in the second round are less likely. Players in the third round are less likelier than the second, and so on. What does this mean? It means that the Steelers under Tomlin have discovered a way to get players with a high probability of being a good football player, a good wide receiver in this case, in a situation much later in the draft, allowing them to focus on other positions earlier in the draft while other teams don't have that advantage. Think of it like this way. The Steelers essentially are getting players that are behaving as first-round draft picks in the second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth rounds, and that will allow them to focus on other positions in the first round or in other earlier rounds where they don't have that deeper understanding. But here's the real true hidden value of what the Steelers are doing. Everyone understands that in the modern NFL, there is a lot of value in having rookie players, young players on those rookie contracts. Obviously, in the current collective bargaining agreement, players that are on those deals are very cheap relative to their potential production. The Steelers, because they're so good at evaluating drafting wide receivers in the second, third, fourth, and fifth, sixth round, they are drafting these guys in the fourth round. And although they've evaluated them to have the same probability of success as a first rounder, but they're paying him fourth round money while they're also on a rookie deal. That is an incredible amount of value in that circumstance. That will allow them to, going forward, spend big money on other positions. And we've already seen it, how they've locked up all-time great potential pass rusher TJ Watt and many other superstars. By the fact that they're so good at evaluating the wide receiver position, it also allows them to move off of wide receivers very easily. Look at the trade of Chase Claypool to the Chicago Bears as a phenomenal example of this. Because they know they're so good at drafting and evaluating that position, they'll be able to replace Claypool and any of those that follow Claypool with quality players without having to give up too much cap space to re-sign them. All of this allows the Steelers to be really aggressive and at the same time really flexible at virtually every other position on their roster. No other team in football has this advantage. Every single other team has strengths and weaknesses in their scouting department, but no team is so consistently good at evaluating and drafting one position. This gives the Steelers an incredible advantage over every other team in football. It's lasted from the beginning of the Mike Tomlin era all the way until now.